What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into another Celtics Talk Weekly post game show. I am your host, Rob Haytan. Joined with me are my two co-hosts tonight, Justin Lowe and Brendon Cox. Guys, tonight the Boston Celtics improved to a 4-0 start. This is their second straight year with starting off the year 4-0 with a 119-108 victory over the Milwaukee Bucks tonight at home at the TD Garden. Guys, it was kind of a team effort tonight, a weird game tonight for the Boston Celtics as they were able to beat the Bucks. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to dive into, some good, some bad, per usual of a post-game show, guys, but you know the drill. Our initial thoughts, reactions, and takeaways from the Celtics win tonight.
Yeah, I thought the Celtics came out flat. Their shooting was off. A few mislaps on the defensive end. Milwaukee obviously playing on a second night of a back-to-back. Kind of found their legs a little bit in that third and fourth quarter. That usually happens on second nights of back-to-back. You come out firing, and then slowly throughout the game as it progresses, the fresher legs prevail, and that was the Boston Celtics tonight. Peyton Pritchard obviously was tremendous tonight off the Celtics bench. We'll talk about him later on, but really solid win for the Celtics here tonight against a Milwaukee team that's struggling here to start the regular season. But we know that this is a team that could pose as a threat to the Boston Celtics as we progress throughout the regular season and eventually get into the playoffs. So a great early season win for the Celtics. They improved to 4-0, and it wasn't the prettiest of wins, but guess what? The Celtics know it better than anyone. It doesn't have to be pretty. They just have to go out there and find a way to win, and that's exactly what they did here tonight, Brendon.
Spot on. No, I think an early tough challenge, and especially in our conference, was definitely what we had going on tonight. Obviously, it wasn't pretty on both ends of the floor, but a win's a win. Obviously, struggles happened early on in the game, but then like towards the end of the third quarter, we all kind of got together. Off night for Brown, off night for Tatum. Brown worked his way back up, but solid win. I'm happy with it. Obviously, it wasn't the way we wanted to handle it, but it was, so excited to see our guys win it.
It was a weird one. I think anytime you see Milwaukee and it's not on national television, the vibes are already off to begin with. I think it was like really weird seeing these two teams play and it not being like on TNT or ESPN. It was just weird. Vibes are off. We talked about it a little bit. I thought it was a great game. It was, you got tested tonight. Milwaukee, obviously a team that was coming off of a loss last night to Brooklyn, one that they, should have won, but they couldn't. Looking to kind of bounce back, and they showed out their stars, Giannis and Dame. They played well. I think the whistle affected the game, and Boston let it affect the game through the first 2.5 quarters a little too much before they were able to kind of pull away with it in the third. So other than that, though, again, Tatum, rough night tonight, didn't hurt us in any way, but didn't really give us anything that was too amazing tonight. It happens. It's a long season. I thought Brown was huge in the second half. But guys, tonight there's a certain somebody that we need to talk about, and he earned his flowers tonight. And that man is Peyton Pritchard. Guys, your SeatGeek player of the game tonight is Peyton Pritchard. However, before we talk about Peyton Pritchard, guys, the NBA season and the Boston Celtics are back, and they're better than ever. If you are looking to go to a Celtics game, any live sporting event, any live concert, guys, we have you set. SeatGeek is the perfect app for you. Guys, at checkout, use code Celtics Weekly for $20 off of your first purchase using SeatGeek. Guys, it's amazing. They show you a live view from your seats. Green and a red scale shows you whether or not the ticket is worth it. So a big shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring us this NBA season. Guys, let's talk about Peyton Pritchard tonight. 28 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals to go along with his 8 3-pointers, 8 of 12 from behind the 3-point line. Justin, Pritchard had it going on all cylinders tonight. How big was Pritchard for the Celtics?
Well, he was absolutely huge, and he was the difference maker in this game for the Celtics, especially when the Celtics came out flat and Peyton Pritchard came up off the bench and really kind of sparked a light for the Celtics in this one. And Peyton Pritchard has been the spark for this team now since the first preseason game out in Abu Dhabi. Peyton Pritchard has been phenomenal. He's been consistent, and he's really carved himself into this six-man role. Where just about a season and a half ago, we were questioning on if Peyton Pritchard even fit here, right? He was getting DNPs. He was, talking about potentially, finding his opportunity elsewhere. Instead, he's continuing to put up great numbers here off this deeply talented Celtics roster. So credit to Peyton Pritchard for always staying ready. And what really impressed me about Peyton Pritchard was just how poised he's been. Right. And he's been put in these really, really difficult situations. And there are times where Peyton Pritchard doesn't overreact. And I feel like Peyton Pritchard is a very confident player. But at the same time, he seizes the moment. He doesn't let the moment really get away from him. And when he was knocking down threes left and right, he also wasn't just forcing up these shots, right? Like he was making sure that the offense was still flowing, that the game was still flowing in the Celtics pace, right? Milwaukee defenders overreact. They double team Peyton Pritchard. Peyton Pritchard kicks it to the open man. That draws two defenders. Who does that leave? It leaves an Al Horford wide open. It leaves a Drew Holiday wide open. It leaves a Xavier Tillman wide open in the corner. So that right there just totally opens up the game for the Celtics. So credit for Peyton Pritchard, not only for going in there and nailing all these 3-pointers tonight, but also just staying ready and staying poised and being able to really affect the game for the Boston Celtics. Also came up with, I think, 2 or 3 steals tonight. So he was terrific on the defensive end as well, where you're an undersized guy in this league. You're going to have to make up for it somehow. And Peyton Pritchard did just that. And in really, really probably, I'd say, other than his triple-double game a couple years ago against Atlanta, this was Peyton Pritchard's best game in a Celtics uniform for sure.
No doubt about it. And Brendon, when you look at Peyton Pritchard, and the Celtics team, it's so easy to kind of get starstrucken, right, with this team, the Tatums, the Browns, the Holidays, the Porzingises, right? What you kind of seem to forget is that this Celtics team might just be a little bit deeper than everyone gives them credit for, right? With guys like Hauser and Pritchard. When you see Pritchard go out there tonight and put up a performance like we saw tonight, 8 threes, obviously 28 points, right? Just how much of a luxury is it to have a performance like this coming from such a star-studded starting lineup?
So I'm just looking at his picture down below. No, I think he definitely found his spark tonight, for sure. Not just like tonight, but I think with this team, he's found a spark off the bench, especially like Justin put it earlier. Like he just said, he's put in a terrific 6-man role. So I think definitely the more games he plays like this, obviously this goes for anybody. He put up 28 points tonight. Consistently, if he can keep doing that off the bench, he's going to find himself suited right for the there's Ian.
The perfect timing.
The 6th man of the year.
Perfect
timing. Yeah. He's going to find himself well suited for the 6th man of the year award. But no, Peyton Pritchard was super consistent tonight. So it's just good to see him, we already know he's made his name in Boston, but he wants to make a name for himself all around the league too, not just with us, but with other teams. So it's good to have that. He's got that spark and that adrenaline going.
Absolutely.
Ian, welcome in. Speak. Give us something on Peyton Pritchard tonight.
Hey, all I know is that Peyton Pritchard just bought up a whole lot of real estate in the entire state of Milwaukee. I think he owns the entire state now. What an absolutely insane game by Peyton Pritchard tonight. Tied the record for threes off the bench with 8. He went 8 for 12 from 3. He hit another buzzer beater. I mean, honestly, it's just like a regular shot for him at this point. I don't even know if is it still impressive? I don't know. It might be.
I think it might be. It surprises me every time still.
He just does it, dude. It's literally just the perfect shot for him. But yeah, he had, and honestly, without him, they would have been getting blown out in the first half. He literally carried their offense on his back in that first half. So honestly, without 100%. Him, the Celtics probably would have lost this game. So
well, and that is a similar point that I made earlier. Like that is so important for these guys like Peyton Pritchard, like Sam Hauser, to come in and be that spark, because we know what we're going to get out of the starting five. But let's face it, they're also human beings. They're not going to have a perfect night. They're not going to have a great night every single night, right? It's a long season. That's life. So when guys like Peyton Pritchard are able to come in to the game and consistently be able to relieve the pressure off the starters the way Peyton Pritchard has been doing, it's just a tremendous help to guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And Jaylen Brown turned out to have a 30-point night tonight and had a very strong second half. But if we remember, he didn't have a great start to this game at all whatsoever. His shot just wasn't there. I feel as if he was turning the ball over quite a bit. Jason Tatum's shot wasn't there either. And we talked about maybe let the officials get to him, reverting back to some old bad habits of his tonight. So Peyton Pritchard being able to come in this game, kind of really stomp his foot down and really take authority, and big reason why the Celtics walked away with the win tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And now for the year, Peyton Pritchard is up to 16.2 points per game off the bench, guys. He has taken his game to another level. And Justin, you mentioned somebody like, Jaylen Brown, right? And it feels like those are two players, Jaylen Brown and Peyton Pritchard, where every single year that they've played for the Celtics, they've gotten better and they've improved. Yeah. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I might just get ahead of myself. Is it too early to start some Peyton Pritchard 6 Man of the Year buzz? Because I'll tell you what, he has elevated his game to another level. And with the absence of Kristaps, there's going to be a lot more buckets to get for the first 40 games of the season. So how realistic do you guys think it is that, Peyton Pritchard makes a name for himself this year in a 6 Man of the Year campaign?
If you're going to start the hype, it's going to be now. Obviously, I think today is a pretty good game to start the campaign, if I had to say. Honestly, I thought about Peyton Pritchard for 6 Man, but I never thought about it like super seriously. But now that he's put on quite a show over the course of the first 4 games of the season, I mean, why can't he be 6 Man of the Year at this point? I mean, 100%. Honestly, start the campaign now. I'm ready for it.
It feels like with Pritchard, and if this is the version of Peyton Pritchard we're going to see, and not even to this extent. I mean, 28 points on 8 of 12 from behind the arc is just nuts to me, right? Like, you're not going to get that every night. But if we can get a Peyton Pritchard that's given us 12 points per game, not even 16, it feels like this team might yet again, we're going to say it again, hit another level. Because, I mean, it is such a luxury to have a Peyton Pritchard, who was a guy that last year, if you guys remember, his role on this team was like up in the air for a while. We didn't really know, like mid-season, he like went through a rough patch. So it's been, it's been a great start to the year for Pritchard. If we're going to pivot here and stay on the guards, a name tonight, former team, Jrue Holiday, guys. Now, Jrue Ian said it, without Pritchard, in that first half, we don't win it. Well, without Holiday in that little stint in the fourth quarter, this game does not get pushed out to what it was eventually pushed out to. Holiday kind of had a rough start to the year. Tonight, it kind of felt like it was Holiday's coming out party. What did we like and what did we see from Jrue Holiday tonight that, resulted in such a good game?
Jrue Holiday continuing to be aggressive. And I feel like his shot was a little bit off to start the season, but tonight I really like the looks that he was getting. Jrue Holiday, again, not really being one to force it. What did he have? He had 21 tonight, 7 of 12 from the field, 4 of 7 from distance. Just a really solid game once again from Jrue Holiday, creating pressure as well. I thought he did a very solid job when he'd get switched on to Giannis tonight. I think he's somebody that you could put on Giannis, not because he's a good defender, because he's very comfortable playing with and against Giannis Antetokounmpo, right? He knows what Giannis is best at. That's why I'm a little bit nervous when we play Marcus Smart, because Marcus Smart knows exactly what Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are best at. But I also like the ability of the guard switches, right? Like, so it's really tough because Dame did draw a few fouls on 3-point shots tonight, but that's very uncharacteristic of the Celtics to foul so many times, especially on a 3-point attempt. When you have Drew Holiday and Derek White on the perimeter and you can switch that, right? One of those guys sticking on Dame, that's so tough. That is so tough to run a very steady offense against. So I really liked what I saw out of Drew Holiday tonight. Active hands on the defensive end. Didn't have any stocks, no steals, no blocks, but at the same time, he just impacts the game on so many levels beyond the stat sheet. And that's exactly why the Boston Celtics traded for this guy. And that's exactly why the Celtics won a championship in his first year in a Celtic uniform.
What I'll say is this. I'll say that obviously we recognize his defense, right? We hit all of his pressure and all that stuff too. But his 3-point game doesn't really go, I think, a lot to notice though. I think like in those moments that we had tonight, like especially last game too, when he hit those 2 in the third quarter, when those happen with him, he can just turn the game to a whole nother level too. In a way, when I say that, I just mean that like when we need those points, it comes from him. That's just what I feel like. I don't know about you guys, but
I love that. I feel like the two of them, White and Holiday, might just be the most timely scorers we have on this team, where it's like, games kind of close, they hit a shot and you look at it and you're like, wow, that was like big, right? Like those inside the margin shots.
Look at Derek White. And I think it was maybe the end of the third, beginning of the fourth, where it's like Derek White wasn't having a good shooting night. Celtics, before they busted it open to double digits, Derek White all of a sudden comes in and hits 2 3-point shots, one over Giannis
and
then one
sequence over. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So absolutely. And we talked about Derek White doing those exact things. I think maybe last post-game show or 2 post-game shows ago, Derek White just being so timely for the Celtics down in the clutch. And that's just instrumentally big for the Celtics, especially against a team like Milwaukee that you're almost guaranteed to see at some point, whether it's later on in the season or in the postseason.
Yeah, and I mean, with Drew Holiday, we saw in that Pistons game, I mean, he was terrible the entire game, but when push came to shove, he hit the 2 biggest shots of the night.
Absolutely.
He had 2 huge corner threes. And then tonight, I mean, he literally hit every single 3 that, the Celtics needed. That one over Giannis that he hit was insane. And I don't know, man. Like, he got his groove in the fourth quarter. I think he had like 8 in the fourth quarter, 10 in the fourth quarter, something like that. Like, he was on fire. He closed out the game, and that just, shows how dangerous the Celtics are, where Jason Tatum can have a game where he shot 6 of 16, he had 15 points, and Celtics can still beat a team by 11 and supposed to be the biggest contender in the Eastern Conference.
Let me ask you this, Ian. How deflating, if at all, is this loss for the Milwaukee Bucks?
I mean, it's huge. I mean, you're coming off of 2 losses against the Chicago Bulls and the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, the only solace you can maybe take away from is the fact that it's the second half of a back-to-back. But I don't know if you even want to take that if you're a Bucks fan. I think I saw somewhere the Milwaukee Bucks are now like 18-22 under Doc Rivers over the last 2 years. Like that's insane,
including a first round bounce. Like,
I mean, at this point, like, I don't know. Do the Bucks fire another head coach? Have a third coach on the payroll this season?
Well, it's interesting.
They hired Darvin Ham.
It's interesting because who was the coach that they had last year? What was this?
They had Adrian Griffin. And start of the game,
and they were 30. They were 35-18 or something like that when they fired him at the All-Star break.
He got booted fast. Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, he was the second seed. He was 35-18 or whatever, and he got booted out. And I mean, I don't know. Something's fishy out there in Milwaukee. It definitely raises an eyebrow. I understand we're still in October, but and we mentioned it. We mention it all the time, specifically myself on the podcast, where it's like Milwaukee did win their championship two or 3 years ago, but they're not getting any younger. They're getting older, right? Brooke Lopez getting older. Chris Middleton getting older. Also, just poor guy can't stay healthy. Giannis Antetokounmpo is I still think he's one of the best players in the entire association, but let's face it, he's also getting older. So Damian Lillard, like the list goes on, right? So their time's running out, and I'm afraid that this is one of the years where it's like that it shows that the time's running out for the Milwaukee Bucks, right? Like look at everybody. Where are they in the standings for a lot of people's standings predictions? 5, 6, 7 seeds, right? Like middle of the pack, borderline play-in team. Like I believe in it. I believe in all that and all that Milwaukee talk. And I just think the time is up for Milwaukee.
Yeah, I was actually, if I could just say one quick thing.
Absolutely.
I don't want to get off track of our team though. Yeah, like Justin said, their time has fallen apart, and we may even, maybe see Giannis exit the team. You never know, but I mean, that's just what I think. But that's talk. But.
No, I was about to touch on it too. It's really a weird situation in Milwaukee because it's like you have the team, you have the star power, but it just feels like it's about 4 years too late. Where it's like you have Giannis in his prime, but you have these other guys like Lopez and Middleton and Dame even some of their some of their role players, right? Guys like Taurean Prince and these other players, Gary Trent Jr. It just kind of feels like they have the pieces and they don't have like the youth. And quite frankly, with the Bucks, and you talk about early season predictions, Justin, I had them around the 3 seed. And I expected them to have a very good regular season early on. But my thing with them was, I expect their legs to fizzle out. So if they're having trouble at the start of the year, I'm going to lose even more confidence in them because of, and I don't see their legs staying good.
Here's the thing. How many more coaches can they go through before they figure out this? Say Doc Rivers gets fired, and I know we're only 4 games in, but I mean, Christ, like Ian said, 18-22, including getting bounced in the first round. I know there were injuries, but getting bounced is getting bounced, fellas. We all know that, right?
Right.
1-4 to start the season. Yeah, you lost to the Celtics, the defending champs. You lost to Brooklyn. You lost to Chicago, 2 teams that you were infinitely better than. I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's no doubt. There's no excuse. You're better than those teams. It's got to. I don't know what it is. It has to. It is Doc Rivers 100% because last year, I don't know what 35-18 second seed. I don't know what that calls for firing your head coach.
Well, you know what it was. Giannis didn't like him.
I understand Giannis didn't like him. You're telling me Giannis likes Doc Rivers and likes being 18-22, being bounced in the first round, right? So I don't know what it is with this Milwaukee team, but what I can tell you is no matter who their coach is, I can tell you their time's running out. I can tell you that. They're
not going to find their way anymore. Seriously,
their window.
This is it.
I feel as if we always talk about the window with the Celtics. I feel as if the window is closed for the Milwaukee Bucks. I do feel like that. And if it's not fully closed, it's cracked. It's not as wide open as it was maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 years ago.
It feels like to me when you go down the Eastern Conference and the competitors with the Boston Celtics, a lot of it is, oh yeah, they could if they can't compete with Boston if. It's like these ifs, right? Oh, Philly can't compete with Boston if they stay healthy. Oh, New York can't compete with Boston if Boston's what I'm saying? Like if Boston has like stuff like other things, right?
Like
where
there's
it's just
no straight up. Like there's no straight up. Yeah.
Exactly. Where there's not a team in the Eastern Conference that you look at and you think, all right, they can take Boston. There's always an if, right? And it feels like Boston's too good of a team to go and lose to a team that has an if. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem with every other team in the Eastern Conference right now. I mean, you're kind of at a point where the Boston Celtics are the overwhelming powerhouse. And like you said, every team in the East is an if. Every team has some sort of issue that could arise that could lead to them not making it far in the playoffs. Like we've seen with Milwaukee, everybody gets injured in the playoffs. The Knicks, everybody gets injured in the playoffs, and they change their entire team. Right. And I mean, there's just so many things that can go wrong with other teams in the Eastern Conference that, by the time the Eastern Conference Finals comes around, the Celtics are playing a team like the Pacers, and everybody wonders why. It's not because the East is weak. It's because every team has some sort of flaw that always seems to pop up at the worst possible time. And that's just kind of what it is. There's really not much you can do about it.
It's also how long before they say goodbye to Chris Middleton, right? How long? How much?
I mean, they just signed him to an extension, so he has to
deadline,
stay.
maybe.
I mean, he doesn't have to stay. I think that contract could definitely be moved, but who's going to want to take that up is what I'm saying. And I just the guy, and he hates being called injury prone, but that's the reality of it. That is not a shot at Chris Middleton. That is the reality. Chris Middleton cannot stay healthy for anything. He cannot stay in the Bucks lineup for anything. And I don't want to keep talking about the Milwaukee Bucks because I sincerely, respectfully to the Milwaukee Bucks, I don't see them as big of a threat to us as other teams in the Eastern Conference.
You know what, Justin? I agree with you. And you know what I want to what? But what?
Really quick.
What? Yeah, absolutely.
There is. There's always, just like there's always ifs, there's always buts. Just like we talk about the Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry, doesn't matter what the other 14 players look like around him. As long as the Milwaukee Bucks have Giannis Antetokounmpo there, they're going to find a way. But right. I do still think that their time is running out, especially against a team like the Boston Celtics.
It's funny because you see what Boston's doing right now and the teams they're doing it to. And you're quick to forget that there's a 7'2" unicorn just sitting and watching.
Luke Cornett.
And right. Yeah. No, and his name's Luke Cornett. No, but like in all seriousness, right? It's like, I like this Celtics team's odds at making the finals.
I know. Yeah,
like
absolutely.
This one, the one without Kristaps. I like this team's odds at making the NBA finals.
Right.
You add Kristaps in, really, it's like, what are you supposed to do? Like bearing injury, how are you supposed, and even with an injury, as long as Brown and Tatum are in this lineup, I like our chances. Yeah, and it's like, how are you, and you watch it tonight, Milwaukee played, Milwaukee should have been up by 15-20 on us at halftime. Right? Like straight up, they should have. And you're watching the game, and it's just like, oh, right, the other team's hanging around. Yeah, Boston's going to win. Right? And it's such a narrative flip because normally when the other team was hanging around with Boston, it's like, oh, Boston's going to lose this game. It's like, oh, no, the other team, Boston's only down by 2 right now. Oh, Boston's only up by 4 right now entering the fourth. Yeah, no, they're going to win this game. So you're just seeing this team become better and better, and the fact that there's still Kristaps Porzingis just watching on the sideline is just, to me, I still can't comprehend it and wrap my head around that. I mean, that's such an untalked about factor, I feel like, right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be huge, man, because, like, I mean, we saw Kristaps Porzingis NBA Finals. I mean, we didn't have him the entire playoffs, came into the NBA Finals one game, the full game, and completely took over. And I mean, it's kind of just one of those things. It's like the KD Warriors at this point, where like, what team has enough weapons to stop everybody?
And it's so.
To go back on the Porzingis point too, you gotta wonder too, like how like Missoula will use him once he comes back. Whether like he'll come off the bench like he did back in game 1, or if obviously he's gonna have a lot of restricted minutes, but I wouldn't jump him right back into the starting lineup. I just feel like, to kind of settle him down a little bit, just obviously keep him off the bench like game 1 from the championship series. Like that's how you want to kind of see how he can transition back from. I mean, he looks, don't get me wrong, he looks totally fine, like, coming back here, but I think like don't rush anything, and obviously don't, wear and tear him down, because the playoffs is where we need him for the most.
Exactly. Absolutely. Don't have him touch the floor until he is 110%. There's no reason.
I do want to, before we kind of strive away from this game, I do want to give my flowers to Jordan Walsh tonight, because Jordan Walsh all of a sudden comes in. No, obviously Sam Hauser missing his 3rd straight game with some back issues. You didn't really know what the rotation was going to look like against a team like Milwaukee. Jordan Walsh was that man to come in off the bench tonight after Peyton Pritchard. And Jay Walsh just did Jordan Walsh things, was just a freak athlete on both ends of the floor. Looked good shooting, went 0 for 2 shooting the 3 ball, looked great shooting, was able to get some really good wide open looks. I thought he was hitting the glass really, really well, which is something that the Celtics absolutely needed. And I just credit for Jordan Walsh, man. Like 20 years old, goes in against Giannis Antetokounmpo in the Bucks. Randomly getting his number called. I don't know if this was something that Joe kind of gave a heads up to, but also knowing Joe, Joe's the type of person to pull a two-way guy off the bench to get in there in a 1-point game. So I want to give the flowers to Jordan Walsh because he looked spectacular in the preseason, and he looked really good here tonight as well. Huge hustle plays from Jordan Walsh. We talked about it with Peyton Pritchard, right? Being able to be that spark off the bench, being able to lift up the starters when the starters aren't performing up to their full potential. So, again, flowers to Jordan Walsh.
What do I always say?
Walsh had to,
you go.
I was going to say the reason why Jordan Walsh was playing was because Sam Hauser was out. And you could tell, I mean, Sam Hauser is a big piece of the Celtics offense. With the lack of spacing that Xavier Tillman had, it is a notable, and I don't mean to
tonight.
Tillman had a rough game tonight, but he's been fine overall. There was just nothing. And he was a non-factor on the offensive side of the ball, and that's completely different with Sam Hauser's in the game. And I mean, Jordan Walsh isn't, he's not Sam Hauser level shooter either. But the fact that Jordan Walsh was able to get in there, he was able to clean up that offensive rebound that he had, that putback was one of the biggest
second chance point. Yeah.
That was absolutely huge for Jordan Walsh. And that's what you need if you're a 20-something-year-old kid. I mean, it's something to get called off the bench. You earn your minutes to get in the game. But what are you going to do when you're in the game? Are you going to make an impact? That's how you get more minutes, and that's how Jordan Walsh ends up playing more games.
What do I say all the time? If you're not scoring, what are you doing? Tonight, Jordan Walsh was the definition of that, right? He just was. It was the O'Shea. We talked about this, Justin and Ian, on a podcast before the season started, where we kind of said, like, is Jordan Walsh kind of the new O'Shea Brissett? And tonight he played exactly the same role as O'Shea Brissett, right? He was scrappy. He made a couple of, defensive tips. He got a couple of key rebounds, the tip in. He got 2 great looks at a 3. And that's all you can ask for. You shoot it when you're open, and you hope eventually throughout the year he'll gain some confidence that you'll see the shot falling. But it's like, you guys nailed it. Nailed it. I mean, that's how you get minutes on this team. If Walsh comes in and can give me 10 minutes of that when we need him every single night and just get better, a little bit better every single night, he'll find himself next season or maybe late into this season with a real role carved out for him, in a necessary role too, at that wing position, because Hauser's amazing, great spacer, but Walsh gives you a little different side of things, right? He gives you a little bit more athletic and defensive look that you can steer to at times. So it'll be interesting. And I'm happy you brought him up, Justin, because big props to Walsh tonight.
Walsh has played 8 games in his career in the first quarter, 8 first quarters for the Celtics he's appeared in. Most of those games have been either later in the season or against lesser factor teams. Tonight, I'd say, was Jordan Walsh's first official first quarter against a really, really high contending team. I mean, this is a Milwaukee team that we could plan to see later in the playoffs, depending on what they look like a few months from now, right? So, huge ups to Jordan Walsh, and you talk about staying ready. And if you want to be on a championship team and you want to come back and you want to try to be a factor, this is exactly what you live for, right? These opportunities. And I think Jordan Walsh took every second of this opportunity tonight and really played well for the Celtics tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we close out this show, guys, the Celtics have a game Wednesday night at 7:00 against the Indiana Pacers, a little Eastern Conference Finals matchup for the Celtics here. Obviously, Indiana kind of off to a weird start to the year, especially Tyrese Halliburton. They lost tonight to the Orlando Magic. They are 1-3 on the year. Yeah. Guys, looking at this rematch, couple things that you want to, put out there before we get to, obviously game time that you want to see from Boston in this matchup?
I mean, just I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they defend the paint, because I don't know, the way that their defense has been, it hasn't looked amazing through the first 4 games of the season.
No.
I think he's muted.
Yep. There we go.
All right.
Am I good? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, you're good.
Sorry.
You're good, yeah.
You're good.
There we go. Okay. So they can lock in when they need to lock in on defense. But the problem is they haven't looked completely consistent this entire season. And I'm interested to see what they do when it comes to Miles Turner in the paint, because in the Eastern Conference Finals, that was a huge, huge thing they attacked, at least in a couple of those games. Like Siakam and Turner were getting to the paint with little to no resistance. So I'm interested to see what they do to counteract that. I don't know what they're going to do, but I mean, Al Horford played an incredible night against Giannis. So
He did.
if Al Horford's going to put up another performance like that, I don't know. It's going to look, it might be scary.
Obviously, defense is very important here against a team like the Indiana Pacers, who were like the second best offensive team last year. I'm going to go ahead and say the opposite and say that I'm really looking at the offense in this game. The Indiana Pacers, not a great defensive team. The Celtics, one of the historically best offensive teams. I want the Celtics to absolutely control the pace, dictate the pace, right? The Pacers are known for their pace. They play very fast-paced basketball. I want the Celtics to be able to control that pace on Wednesday night, especially on that offensive end. Listen, right? We talk about Miles Turner around the rim. He's a very, very solid shot blocker. Pascal Siakam at that 4 slot. But I love how the Celtics are able to play 5 out. I love the Celtics to really attack them, draw the defenders out of the paint. And if you can draw 2, kick it out, you get a great shot. So I really want the Celtics to control the pace and really dictate their own offense, right? Don't let the Indiana Pacers dictate your game. Right. Because let's face it, the Celtics swept the Indiana Pacers, but that was the closest sweep we've ever seen. Right. All 4 games were tight games. Celtics really had to come down the stretch and really earn those wins. Right. Similar to that Brooklyn series just a couple years ago. So Indiana Pacers is a team that I think pose more of a threat, in my opinion, than a team like the Milwaukee Bucks. These are the types of teams I'm a little bit nervous about, is the Indiana Pacers and the Orlando Magics. And I wasn't too high on them, but the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? Those are the teams that I'm looking at. Those are the teams that kind of make me raise my eyebrow a little bit compared to a team like Milwaukee and honestly, even Philadelphia. So Celtics, if they can control the pace, they can play right, keep the turnovers low. I think they got a great shot here on Wednesday night.
I definitely think that, like Justin just said perfectly, Indiana might be like probably one of our biggest challenges too. I think they honestly, in the next few years, you could be even seeing like these teams go back and forth in the Eastern Conference Finals. They're building together a young core of guys. Obviously we know Halliburton's their star. Turner is probably going to be sticking around there for a while, and they just got Pascal Siakam from last season too, who's been playing pretty phenomenal this year, and then he played phenomenal last year in our series as well. So there's definitely a lot of players you want to watch out for. And Andrew Nembhard too. He's going to be with Halliburton in the backcourt too. So it's going to be interesting to see how White and Holiday can kind of, guard up against them, because like Justin just said too, defense isn't their strong suit. So we want to see more of an offensive game from both sides. So I'm excited for this game. So it'll be fun. And we have him on a back-to-back at home too. So
I'm interested to see how they guard Tatum. I think Milwaukee gave Jason Tatum a very weird coverage look tonight that I haven't seen in a while. A lot of blitzes, a lot of off-ball handsiness, kind of like what Miami does. So I'm looking at that Jason Tatum matchup tomorrow or Wednesday night, against Indy. So I think that's what I'm most excited for.
I'd assume they throw a lot of Neesmith at Jason Tatum. Neesmith has been that guy to defend usually teams' best players, and he does a pretty damn good job about it. So
Yeah.
I'd expect Neesmith to get a lot of run on Jason Tatum on Wednesday
Right.
night. But this is going to be a fun matchup, man. I mean, Celtics and Pacers. This is a team, just like Brendon said, this is a team that has given the Celtics trouble in the past and could be giving the Celtics trouble in the future. Right? This is a team that's pesky. They don't have. I mean, obviously they have Halliburton, but they don't have anybody that jumps out at you like a Jokic or a Giannis or an Embiid, right? Or like a
Right.
Steph Curry. But those are those are usually the most dangerous teams, right? So Celtics and Pacers, Celtics looking to go to 5-0. I think it's a great chance here. And you get those, it's funny, like everybody, oh, you're playing these easy teams. It's like Celtics had those 2 little games with Washington and Detroit, but I mean, Milwaukee, New York, and Indiana, for the 3 of your first 5 games, that's pretty tough. Those are 3 top competitors that you're going to face in the Eastern Conference. So Celtics can really control their first 5 games.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I'll tell you what, it was all Celtics tonight. They improved to 4-0 on the season, guys, with a 119-108 victory against a conference rival in the Milwaukee Bucks. Tonight, it was all Peyton Pritchard. He was your SeatGeek player of the game. 28 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists for Pritch off the bench. Like I said earlier, the Boston Celtics will be facing off against the Indiana Pacers at home at the TD Garden. Tip-off for that game is at 7 p.m. Eastern time on October 30th, guys. After the final buzzer sounds there, come right back to the Celtics Talk Weekly YouTube channel for yet another Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. Guys, you know the drill. Until next time, roll the music and go Celtics, guys. Thank you so much.